Welcome to AMT's Tech Trend Podcast, where we discuss the latest manufacturing technology, research, and news. Today's episode is sponsored by AM Radio. More on that shortly. I am the Director of Technology, Benjamin Moses. I'm here with
the Technology Analyst of AMT, Stephen Lamarca.
Steve, I'm stressed out.
Why are you stressed out?
I'm in the middle of deploying our association management software.
You have every right to be stressed out.
So a parallel for the rest of the industry would be similar to if you're migrating from between ERP systems. You've got a bunch of configuration, software applications, and data underneath. So we're going to an old, basically access database to an application built on top of Salesforce. So we designed the configuration so we kind of know how the software should work. Now we're in the middle of migrating all of our data, and it's never as simple as copy and paste. That's the worst thing you could seem to do. That you've got table A and table Z, and you got to figure out how to make them work.
Yeah, dude, I tell you what, we were. I say we. Dayton, Nina, and I were here late last night, planning our attack on Rapid next week.
Yeah,
and as we were going through the company names. Dayton was based as Nina was going through the company, the exhibitor list for Rapid. Dayton was basically listing off, like shouting off for Nina's spreadsheet whether the company is a non-member or a member,
right. And
on a rating from 1 to 5, how hot they are and are they worth going to talk to?
Right.
Like should we make an attempt to talk to them at the show? And as we're going through member, non-member, I'm just like Dayton, I'm very impressed, like for being as new to AMT as he is. He knows a lot of companies, whether or not they're members, and which is something you do pick up pretty quick working here.
Right.
But I still don't know who's a member and who's not, like to 100%. So I just had Tim's open, our old AMS, our legacy AMS, our. Man, it's old.
Legacy is the right word.
I used another word before the show that wasn't right, but
a curse word?
No, it was not profane. I could have said it here, and I wish I did, but I don't remember it anymore.
I've been cursing a lot.
I believe it. And Nina and Dayton, two of like the smartest people that we have here, look at me and they're like, "You know how to use Tim's?" And I'm like, "What? You guys don't?" They're like, "No, we were just told not to touch that thing with a 10-foot pole." And I'm like, well, I mean, I don't like change any of the data in there, but I know how to search for companies and tell whether or not they're members or not, or what's their membership status if they are or were or are a prospect. It's got all of that stuff in there. It's still really useful. Like there's a reason why the people who are buried in Tim's still kind of like it a little bit. It's not good for anybody else, and they want like interns to be able to use an AMS, and Tim's is not an intern AMS, which is why we're going to something else.
Yeah,
but,
and that's a good takeaway, to be honest. And the source data, it's still super relevant. So like being able to export that into like another SQL database or a Pataho where you can dashboard information.
These are all words I don't know.
The key thing that the big takeaway for me is that the evolution of user interfaces have changed so rapidly, especially now. Like every year you get some type of new feature that is propagated through either websites or phones or computer programs, that if you're not carrying that over into enterprise applications, the ability to scale up the application to new users kind of limits you, right?
Yeah.
So being able to switch to this new software and keeping it current to what we expect our current user experiences and interfaces is very pivotal for us, especially when we look at the externally facing side of the application too. So I completely agree with you that using legacy, like this is like 15 years old type application that we're moving away from. And being
at least
maneuver through this is a challenge because everyone's so used to what is current between now and like 5 years ago.
I mean, just what's crazy is it doesn't have simple mechanics that everybody's used to today, like with search engines, like using Google. You type something in. You don't need to format. You can if you want to be specific, but you don't need to format what you type in, and then you press enter. Tim's? Put a percentage sign around every single word, and Enter does nothing. You have to click on a button, which is also F12. It's one of the F function keys.
Yeah.
I just click on it because I can never remember my function keys. And then you have to scroll through a bunch of companies that come up in the search. But yeah, you know what? We were talking. I went to the bar last Thursday.
Yep.
In Whole Foods in Tyson's.
That's
They
an
have
experience.
a bar. It is an experience. Dude, it's cheap.
Yeah.
You can go to the Whole Foods bar and get a lot of drinks for $15.
Well,
it's insane.
That's their trick. They get you drunk to buy their expensive ass food in there.
That's true. But anyway, I'm there at the bar. I don't even really drink that much anymore. I was there with people. But some of the people that we met there, like random people we met there, we met these 3 guys that have made a startup. They formed a startup company to do AMSs, specifically associations.
That's
like
cool.
exactly AMSs, association management systems. And their primary competitor, as they know, is like Fontiva's Salesforce.
Right.
And I told them they were trying to like what offended me at first, which is because what I'm about to tell you may sound a little mean.
Sure.
But
you were drunk.
I was not. I was absolutely not. But the reason why I had a mean response was because as they were telling me what they did, they were also selling it to me. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to. I'm not the person to talk to, number one. Yeah. Number two, how dare you try to sell me something on like off time, downtime. Right. Like it's not work hour now. Yeah. Like I respect the hustle.
Sure.
But now it's my turn. Here comes the retaliation.
Yeah.
You have a huge uphill battle against Fontiva.
And Salesforce.
It is potentially Salesforce. It is potentially an easy and both extremely difficult battle.
Right.
Let's start with the easy part. All you have to do to make a superior product to Salesforce, good customer service, actually listen to your customers, deliver on time.
Yeah.
And don't squeeze them for every single nickel and dime possible.
Fair.
That's it. That's all you have to do to be successful.
Well,
and the product has to work. It has to work.
I would say for them to be a successful startup is if someone types in CRM, that they show up as one of the ads on top of CRM.
I'm not marketing. Don't talk to me about that. Here's the big fight. All of these corporate executive dummies always shove Salesforce onto their people who actually use it while they can't figure out how to open a PDF. They shove Salesforce onto these people and then say this awful thing, which I'm still not sure holds any merit or truth, and says, yeah, but Salesforce will look really good on your resume. Meaning, I don't want you to work here anymore, so when you go job hunting for someplace else, Salesforce will look good. And how Salesforce managed to get that is incredible.
Super Bowl ads.
But maybe it was Super Bowl, and they are on the sides of F1 tracks now.
That's true.
During the various countries' Grand Prix.
That's big time.
But I told this startup, these 3 guys, and it's like, that's all you have to do.
That's all they have to do.
That's all you have to do. But already, it's like, I don't want to speak ill of them.
Sure.
But at the same time, I saw this guy walking. We crossed paths as I was leaving the bathroom. This one guy was walking to the bathroom. And it's like, they're a startup company. Right. They're not established at all yet. Right. He's already wearing a Salvatore Ferragamo belt. Like, are you kidding me? Way to look full, way to not look full of yourself at all. Good job. Man, that executive life, though, bro.
For the 3-man startup.
Glad you're at the top of the 3-man totem pole.
Steve, tell us about our sponsor today.
Our sponsor today, AM Radio, is the new podcast from Additive Manufacturing Media. Join editors Pete Zielinski, Stephanie Hendrickson, and Julia Heider as they share stories of companies succeeding with 3D printing today. Talk about emerging trends and discuss the future opportunities and potential for AM in the context of the larger manufacturing landscape. New episodes are published every other week. Subscribe now on Apple or wherever you listen to podcasts. Tune into Additive.
Awesome, man. And speaking of which, let's talk about our test bed.
The test bed.
It's seen some action recently.
All right.
International action.
Dude, so much international action.
Yep.
Interactional.
Do you need a starting point?
No. So okay, we've said like a million times now that the first Pocket NC that we got, the first piece of equipment for our test bed, we sent it during the pandemic to Monterey, the Mexico Tech Center, Monterey, Mexico, not California. To hell with them. And they loved it so much that we were like, yeah, we're not gonna. Nah, don't send it back. We'll just buy a new one because I kind of want the new one anyway. The new one's supposed to arrive this week or is supposed to be arriving this week. I'm not gonna worry about it, but we've got a new one on the way. And MFG was not last week, but MFG is an AMT event of ours. It was really awesome, by the way. You should have been there. Hopefully you were. At MFG, I got to talk to Carlos, who's like the head of the Mexico Tech Center for AMT. And I told Carlos that, our manufacturing test bed also has a 7-joint collaborative robot.
That was a mistake.
I'm not going to say it was a mistake.
No.
But basically, he goes to talk. He's telling me, tell me more about this robot. and basically tell him about it. And then like a week later, he gets an email, or he sends an email to Tim, and Tim emails us. And he's like, hey, so Carlos knows that we have a collaborative robot. What's the plan on sending it to him? And so, we might send that to him. And frankly, you're the one who knows the budget, so you're going to be the one who's opposed to this. But I'm not opposed to that, because let's send him the X-Arm, and then we can order from this new German company that has those that I spoke about a few podcasts ago. Let's order one of their robots. But
so the goal is to continue feeding our Mexico Test Center with a demonstrator. So we've got the subtractive manufacturing side with the 5-axis machine. Now we're going to incorporate automation, which hopefully we can send you down, and you and Danielle can collaborate.
That's the next plan. I'll talk with Carlos. We'll get something set up. I'll put the X-Arm in my luggage and go down there with it.
I want to hear you explain that to the person you're checking your luggage into.
Oh my! So I have been stopped at TSA for the weirdest things. So like when Russ and Pam used to send me to the MT Connect standards committee meetings before they were called the TAG, Technical Advisory Committee. Was that it? TAG, Technical Advisory Group. Now forget TAG. Now it's the standards committee. When they used to send me to those, they used to give me all of like the magnetic name tag badges. Flagged right away. Flagged right. I remember in college when the news broke that TSA was getting mass spectrometers.
Oh yeah.
And I told my chem and physics professors this, and they face palmed immediately. They're like, so many people are going to be traveling with hand lotion and get flagged for plastique.
It's fun trying to travel with manufacturing equipment. So I've traveled with cutters, tool holders. Instead of shipping
that heavy carbide and Inconel.
I'm like right underneath the weight limit. I'm like, here's some cutting equipment. What do I do with this? Please take it. I had when I was working for our site in Phelps, New York, just south of Rochester. They're doing electromagnetic solenoid valves, like little guys for hydraulic applications in airplanes. And they had a demonstrator valve that they want to be shipped around. It's basically just coils and windings and wires. So when I take it to the check-in counter, I was like, hey guys, I have to check this in. Is this cool? So talking to the agent right up front that you're carrying equipment is pretty important. So just keep that in mind.
The craziest thing I've done in college, deer season ended.
Oh yeah.
When I went down that year, I brought my Remington 700, planning to do some deer hunting in Vermont. Brought it up there. And deer season is like in Vermont is 3 days, and each day is a different weapon is supposed to be used. Right. So it's rifle, then it's bow, then it's muzzle loader.
Okay.
And once those 3 days are over, like I had no reason to have the rifle there. So and I didn't want it to be in my college house. So I wanted it home where it was safe. And so I flew back with it, and I had a TSA grade gun case for it and everything. And they flagged me right away.
Of course.
Burlington International Airport is it's a shoebox of an airport. Right. And they have F-35s. We'll get into that later, though.
Yeah.
Burlington International, I get to security. I'm the only one in line. They don't have pre-check there because they don't need it.
Right.
So I'm going through the line, and immediately 2 police officers come up behind me. I've already checked my bag, mind you.
Right.
Rather, I've checked my gun case.
Correct.
And, oh, wait a minute. Go back to when I checked it. When I checked it, they told me, sir, you're going to have to open this up. So
Okay.
I unlock it.
Sure.
It's got the TSA locks.
Right.
And they see the rifle right there. And they ask me, is there any ammunition in this vessel? Right. And I'm like, no.
Right.
No.
Not a dummy.
I'm not going to risk anything. I'm already flying with a gun.
Right.
And so they bring in this TSA guy, and the 2 police officers, they were the ones who told me to open it. And then they bring in this TSA guy who's got the rubber gloves on. And he swabs the gun case, and he's like, sir, this came up positive for volatile chemicals. And it's like, yeah, it's a gun. It needs volatile chemicals to work.
Captain Obvious.
and they just let me pat. Yeah. I locked it back up, and they let me go to security. At security, the 2 different police officers, or they may have been the same. I didn't get a good look at their faces. Yeah. Come up behind me. He's like, sir, you've been flagged for a random security screening. And we're like, oh, I'm sure it was totally random because, I'm the only guy here. And I'm the one guy here who's flying with a gun, too. But that was a wild time.
So if you guys happen to meet me at one of our conferences or events,
please don't give me anything cool.
Ask me what my mother-in-law brought back from Florida.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's fun. It's very fun.
Oh, geez.
Steve, let's get into our first article. You got one?
I have one about the F-35.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Green Mountain Boys, this article has nothing to do with them, but the Green Mountain Boys are stationed at the Burlington International Airport in Vermont, and they were like one of the first, I don't know if you call them divisions or squadrons that got the F-35. Yeah. So when I was in college, like a long time ago, at least to me, I saw like while we were waiting for our flights and stuff to go home for winter break and whatnot, you would see like in between commercial airliners taking off, you would see F-16s. And one time I saw an F-35 and I was like, wow, it actually works.
Yeah.
But anyway, the article that I have from Metrology News, of course.
While you're doing that, can I bring up a time reference for you?
Yeah.
Now that you mentioned that, I actually worked on the Stovall version of F-35.
On the what?
It's the Stovall version, the vertical takeoff version of F-35. So I did some design work on one of their stabilizing units on their wings. So that gives you a time reference on when I worked on F-35 versus when you saw it in production.
What I'm giggling about is that like you get a lot of people talking smack about the F-35. Like, oh, it's the most expensive plane ever. It's like, number one, they made a lot of them.
Yeah,
there's not a huge amount. They're like not in the thousands, but they're getting there.
Right.
They've made a lot of them, number one. Number two, it's also expensive because look in any direction where you see people. Somebody in that group of people has worked on the F-35.
This is true.
Everybody and their mother has worked on the F-35. Right. Those are mouths to feed. It's going to be an expensive plane. It's America's plane.
Yeah, that's right.
I never thought I would hype it up that much, but anyway, Metrology News: additive manufacturing to repair the F-35 large titanium blisks.
Yep.
Blisk.
They're expensive.
Blisk is what's the fancy word for describing a word that is the combination of multiple words? I forget. Not an antonym, and it's not an onomatopoeia. Promontu.
Let's keep going, Steve.
Whatever. Blisk means bladed disc.
Right.
And the bladed discs are inside turbine engines.
Yep.
The F-35 has one turbine engine, but with a handful of blisks on it. Those blisks are made out of titanium. Each one of those blisks costs $500,000.
Yep.
Instead of replacing a blisk once it gets worn out, it's easier. The government, the DOD, has determined it would be advantageous for us to be able to just fix them instead of entirely replacing them, since they are $500,000. So they have turned to a company, Optimec, and awarded them $1.5 million in a contract to use additive manufacturing, specifically printing titanium, to fix said blisks.
That's cool.
It's cool until you realize $1.5 million,
you'll fix.
And the blisk costs $500,000. They can repair 3 blisks. There's like close to 700 of these planes out there.
It's a good proof of concept for them.
But yeah, hey, you're getting your name out there, buddy.
No, but that is a really good use case for additive that we've kind of talked about exploring a lot more. Aerospace has a really big maintenance repair overhaul cycle, and being able to get into instead of replacing parts constantly. So like if you have a bracket on a duct assembly that gets damaged, the common process is replace a whole duct, which is very, very expensive. That's often 3 to 5 times the cost of the OEM part in the aftermarket. Or you replace that bracket. But as anyone that's trying to buy like a screw or a small component in a car, it's really hard to find that part number of that within that subassembly.
Yeah.
I try to replace the light that shines on the rear license plate on my Xterra.
Yeah.
And they said, no, you have to buy the whole bumper. I said, what? It's a
wild.
pretty old car, but I giggled and I said, nope.
Pass.
But the concept is it's kind of difficult to drill down to a specific component sometimes. So the ability to repair parts on an assembly,
Yeah.
and obviously grow the part or grow that portion of it. A lot of times you'll see them actually excavate. They'll cut out a square corner or cut out like a circular piece and then come back and refill it and machine it back down. But the ability for that to occur in defense a lot is really important because these things are abused, right? They get end of life very, very quickly. So instead of having to go through this rotary pool of old inventory or throwing them away, just repair the cracks and then move forward.
Right. And it's not like these planes are flying through dusty environments all the time.
Yeah.
And that's wearing the leading edge down on each blade of the blisk.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just wear and tear.
But repair, man, that's a big market for additive.
Yeah.
And the key
imagine if your brake rotors were so expensive that the cheapest way to fix them instead of replacing them was to print more material on it and then grind it down.
Yeah.
That's wild to me.
Porsche is very close to that.
They are, because they are nuts.
I'll get into another theory we had a discussion before recording, but the concept of it's not just printing.
All right, you've proved me wrong.
It's not just printing that we're looking at; it's the additive process, right, for the repair. So you're going to have to excavate a part, you're going to have to grow a part or a portion of the part, and then continue machining and manufacturing. So it's coupling the subtractive process with the additive capability. So it's a very big ecosystem that we're looking for in this process. I've got an article from TechCrunch.
Oh, cool.
They like their fancy titles.
I like TechCrunch.
Move over Picasso. Watching this robot print a car is mesmerizing.
Dude.
So it's a
paint a car?
It's a little the title isn't as descriptive as I like.
Okay.
So they're not just painting the raw shell of it. What they're doing is mass customization. So they have this experiment where they took an abstract artist that just like a young kid who actually has done a lot of paintings, taking his ideas and worked with a digital collector startup company and figure out how to put this abstract painting onto a car. So the car already has a white shell, a white paint job onto it, and they're doing basically a customization. So the use case would be Ben, I want to print Ben on my car or something like that. Mm-hmm. So over the past couple of years, we've talked about it where automation in painting cars, that's been around for a real long time.
Yeah.
What we've seen is progressions on, single robotic arm being able to move on a gantry or keeping the car still. We've seen significant changes on the nozzle head, right? So instead of spraying a ton of stuff, they're changing the spray pattern so it can be more effective and capturing that spray.
Yeah.
What this iteration is showing is that basically they have a inkjet nozzle head with like 1,000 different nozzle heads and basically printing on the surface of the car any unique pattern without masking. So there was an example a couple of episodes ago we talked about. I think it was BMW doing this also, where they're printing racing stripes without masking.
Yeah.
So in this case, it's an inkjet head. So they just move the head along and it's printing just like your inkjet printer would on paper. So they're able to do very, very complex shapes and patterns and colors by going, and of course, accuracy of robotics and the user interface is also facilitating this type of process where they've progressed significantly to allow this. But it's a very interesting test where, on the surface, they're doing a demonstrator of this abstract on the car, but the capabilities allow us to do two things. One is mass customization. That's still a very interesting thing of being able to do lot size of one.
Yeah.
Right. So being able to
And not having to be Duesenberg or Rolls Royce to do such a
exactly
job.
not paying tens of thousands of dollars for a unique paint job where I could just click a couple of buttons and pay a $500 upcharge or something like that. So the ability to be have an affordable mass customization, but also
I love that term.
The environmental impact where this allows it to be cost effective, right? So you're not masking, you're not paying for a human to mask it.
You're not. It sounds like you can minimize overspray.
Yeah, absolutely. You minimize overspray, which you reduce your paint usage, but you reduce your ventilation requirements, right? And anything requiring for a filtration for that. Energy usage goes down significantly, and obviously with a lot of paint, there's also a lot of water usage trying to recapture that debris. So overall, it's significantly more efficient. And I was thinking about the use case of this too. It may not be at the OEM side. This could be a case where it's like a third-party paint job where they have a robotic arm and a nozzle head, right? It doesn't have to be at Audi or BMW. It could be at Mako or something like that.
When you started describing it, I was like, I can't wait until I can pull into a flagship car wash place and be like, hey, I have a door ding.
Yep.
And there's like, pull into that bay, and it like laser measures your car as you're pulling in to know exactly where your car is placed, and then a robot like scoots over on rails and just does like grinds down all of the debris, exposes the cleanest layer of paint, maybe applies more of the paint once it does some sort of optical measurement to find out what kind of paint you have, sprays on some new stuff, dries it, sprays on clear coat, buffs it out, and does all that. It sounds wild right now. I think we're 10 years away.
10 years away?
Yeah.
Episode 500, we'll come back and revisit this. But it is interesting. I mean, so it's the progression of all the surrounding technologies with automation, right? You have the nozzle head, you've got the user interface, and you've got the ability for the arm to be more mobile within the paint booth. And there's a significant collision of all these things that's making automation significantly more effective and getting us to more mass, which is contrary to what I've thought of mass customization. I would not think that automation would be a vehicle to get us there, but it makes a lot of sense in retrospect.
I mean, I think automation is the only way you can put the word mass in front of customization.
Fair. I got the next article, Steve.
All right.
New study assesses the effectiveness of 3D printed titanium implants on bone growth. So the reason I brought this up is I found it very interesting where we talked about additive on
Dude, we're talking a lot about titanium.
A lot of
this
I love
episode.
Titanium.
Dude, we're starting to sound like Titan Gilroy.
And this is direct applications into the body. So this is not like printing tools, or you could say printing teeth, but there's a couple of use cases here where you have actual 3D printed titanium parts being used as implants. And I thought this was very fascinating, where this is probably closest to, I'll call it mass production or end use, where you're printing or additive manufacturing for a true end use application. So the article starts it off with a research that's being done for 3D bone replacements for reconstructive surgery. And a lot of these are reconstructive, but it highlights a couple other use cases. One is Texas A&M University has developed a novel 3D printing scaffold that directly facilitates bone growth after surgery, which is that's one of the biggest problems with implants is the body rejecting the implant. But they're able to grow the pattern and the surface texture and the scaffold basically to allow the bone to grow around it and facilitate more growth. Quebec International Research, and I think there's another one from Canada. They're using Arcam from GE Additive to expedite specific lower jaw implants. And then Paulista University has 3D printed facial prosthetic for a Brazilian cancer survivor, which includes her right eye, which that blew my mind.
Printing the right eye as well.
Yeah.
Wow. Out of titanium?
The world's heaviest eyeball.
Maybe there's a nice lattice. Who knows?
And the last one I have is from Health Canada, approved as first Canadian-made 3D printed medical implant, a customizable mandible plate used for facial reconstruction surgery, predominantly for patients with oral cancer.
Wow.
So these are pretty severe cases where, they're losing parts of the body. They had no control. It's not like an injury or someone riding around without a helmet.
Yeah.
These are things that they had no control over. They lost part of their body, and manufacturing and the medical institute was like, we can fix that for you. It's pretty impressive.
Please be our guinea pig. We're so sorry for you. We want to take pity on you. Be our guinea pig.
You've got an op-ed that we want to get into.
Okay. So I found this article from Inc.com.
Yep.
Inc. is an incorporated. And what I really like about it, so I shared the link on our podcast article Slack channel. And when you look at the link, when the preview comes up for the link,
right.
The article title is Tesla's 9-word rule every employee has to follow is simply brilliant.
Sure.
And you click on the link to open it up. The new title, Tesla's 10-word rule every employee has to follow is simply brilliant.
Wait a second.
Yeah, I know. Whatever. But anyway, this author of this opinion piece basically starts off by saying, yeah, I had a lot of free time, so I decided to read Tesla's report.
Right.
Tesla's a hot company.
Sure.
They've got a lot of attention. All companies come out with these reports to say how great they're doing and hype themselves up.
Of course.
And Tesla came out with one that was 144 pages long, and this guy took it upon himself to read the whole thing. And they highlight some really cool metrics and some awesome numbers that Tesla's achieved and accomplished. One of their things that they said is because they sold X amount of cars, they said, we have prevented the emission of this much greenhouse gas.
That's cool.
Which is a cool way to look at it.
Right.
It's by no means a conventional metric that anybody else would follow in the auto industry, but they're not conventional. And
all of that's
they're probably the most exciting and extravagant and extreme and ridiculous auto manufacturer that we have seen since, the birth of Lamborghini.
You and I got in a debate
Yes.
about this, about how kooky Germans are versus...
Germans are kooky, but they're not ridiculous.
We'll discuss this.
They're calculated, and they keep efficiency in mind. And if they can do something fun with it, they do. But Germans don't buy fast cars because they're fun.
Sure,
they buy fast cars so they can wake up later and still get to work on time.
That's an argument. We'll discuss this further.
I mean, that's cool, but it's not ridiculous.
All right.
The Ferrari Testarossa and the Lamborghini Countach they came about not because they had a purpose or because of passion and a few kilograms of cocaine.
I would say the Volkswagen, I think Nardo, the W16 is a pretty wacky engine.
That thing is okay. Yeah.
When you come up with a W16, that's a little bit over the top.
Let's take two V8s and put them on the same crankshaft. Anyway, Inc. Yeah, this guy's talking about the Tesla report. And the thing that has him the most taken aback is he gets to this 10-word sentence goes beyond that. So basically, go back to the title.
Right.
Tesla's 10-word rule every employee has to follow is simply brilliant. And you scroll down to that rule. Tesla aspires to be a do the right thing company. Okay. And then the rest of the article is about like how this guy's waxing poetic on how that's so brilliant and what a genius rule that is. And it is a cool.
Sure.
It's good, but like, this is a report. All companies do these reports to hype themselves up and say nice things about themselves to keep their shareholders happy. At the same time, every company of the few companies that I've worked for in my career, like they've all had like some motto, short motto like that was very positive and uplifting. Nobody cared.
Mercedes has always the best, or something like that.
Do they really?
Yeah. A couple of marketing campaigns.
Well, they all do.
They all do. To your point, every company has some aspirational slogan or meaning that they want the employees to tattoo on their chest.
It's cool. I guess Elon Musk owns Tesla. Didn't create it. He owns Tesla, and I guess they're really proud of this.
So the big takeaway is we want to hear from the audience. Which country is the most kooky? Steve debates the Italians. I think it's the Germans. We'll discuss that later.
All right, let's start with who's the most unreliable. French. French car. You've never heard a good thing about a French car.
I have not heard good things about some Alfa Romeos.
Oh, man.
I love those cars, but man.
God, they are pretty.
Steve, the last article I have is America makes statement on White House AM Ford initiative. So America Makes is a manufacturing institute, and they're heavily involved with the AM Ford initiative put forward by the White House and President Biden. So the AM Ford program is a voluntary agreement between...
Are you saying AM forward?
AM Forward.
Okay. It was confusing me because it sounded like AM Ford.
Oh.
I was like, what kind of contract do they have with Ford?
Ford is not part of this, but America Makes and the members GE Aviation, Honeywell, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Siemens Energy designed to improve the competitiveness of America's small and medium-sized manufacturing and strengthen the manufacturing workforce and domestic supply chain through additive manufacturing. So the goal is, obviously, they've seen issues in supply chain, and obviously it's compounded on the manufacturing side through workforce issues. So this AM Forward is part of a bigger innovation bill where they want to solve some of our problems. The AM Forward bill from the administration wants to do a couple of key things. I think there's 3 bullets here that I was able to glean. More resilient and innovative supply chain by investing in small and medium-sized companies, growing industries of the future, overcoming coordination challenge that limit adoption of new technologies like additive manufacturing, both inventing and making more in America through investments in regional manufacturing ecosystem. So it's a part initiative to focus on manufacturing, what the past couple of administrations have done through manufacturing institutes. But I think this is one of the later steps to directly fund the manufacturing industry. And there's a bunch of numbers involved with the innovation bill. But
to curb supply chain issues.
Yep.
Utilizing additive manufacturing.
That's right. Fascinating.
And this is a U.S. Project.
Yes.
So they're trying to do what the Italians did during the pandemic with all of the ventilators and stuff, because the Italians used additive to beat that.
Sure.
I'm just saying, they did something right.
Let me write the one thing they did right. No, we'll have links to both the America Makes and the White House fact sheet about this. And I think it's a very good look at where the U.S. is looking to focus their efforts on and how the manufacturing industry can use this to grow U.S.-based competitiveness, where we're looking at reshoring technologies, but also how can we leapfrog some of the other countries in technology advancements, or come up with other technologies to compete against those. So it's very positive. So I'm happy to see this move forward. And John Wilnitzki from America Makes had some really good pictures of. I think they hosted the event with President Biden in Youngstown. So it was fun times.
That is awesome.
Steve, who was our sponsor today, and can you tell us where they can find more info about us?
Our sponsor today was AM Radio, and you can find more about us at amtonline.org/resources. Like, share, subscribe.
Bye, everyone.
Comment down below. Ring that bell.